And welcome everyone to a March Madness chat with Nina King. She is the Duke Athletic Director, as well as, yet again, the chair of the Women's Basketball Selection Committee. Nina, you've got a lot on your plate in both jobs. Let's first discuss the net. It is back. It is coming out. What is its purpose in terms of a tool for the Women's Basketball Committee for selecting and seeding teams?
Yeah, great to see you, Andy. Great to be back for year two of this chairing the Women's Basketball Committee, and just really excited for what we have in front of us in a little bit more normal year, if you will. And I think net will be a little bit more normal as well. So, net is a evaluation tool that we use. It's one of 14 criteria that we look at in the committee room when we're selecting, seeding, and bracketing teams. And net really just helps us measure a team's quality and evaluate the team. It's determined by who you play, where you played, and how efficiently you played. Now, it's a crazy algorithm that the folks at Google developed, so I won't even get into what makes up exactly the algorithm because I don't understand it. That's best left to the math nerds. But it takes into account offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, strength of opponent, location, home, away, or neutral, and all those factors go into the computer and a number is spit out. So it's a great evaluation tool that we're utilizing now here in year two. And I mentioned it's a little bit more normal because last year with very little non-conference play, if any, it was hard to really evaluate teams based on net. So this year we should see it stabilize a little bit more and be a little bit more useful of a tool.
One thing that already we've seen in the first month of the season, but the women's game has really done a great job of this, are matchups within the top grouping. We saw the 1 versus 2 down in the Bahamas. We've seen the Big Ten ACC Challenge actually get more exposure and really have its own nights on various networks, from the ESPN networks and Big Ten Network and ACC Network. So that's all great. How will that help as a tool, the fact that we're seeing more high-profile matchups in the women's game?
Absolutely. I mean, it's something that we talk about a lot in the committee room when we're kind of trying to differentiate teams. Did teams challenge themselves? What is their non-conference, the controllable scheduling piece? What does their non-conference look like? And understanding, there's kind of rivalries and you want to keep maybe some regional games, but did teams stretch and really challenge themselves with quality opponents? And so it's been really exciting this year. I mean, we've seen so many in MTE tournaments and home and homes. It's been great to see that, and it really does make a difference. Obviously, you want to try to schedule games that you could potentially win, but then you also want to play really well in the games, win or lose, because again, net is taking into account efficiency, offensive and defensive efficiency, and so it's something that we look at and really challenged a lot of conferences to spread the messages to their coaches to make strong non-conference schedules, because it is a factor come selection time.
We've also seen, I think, some great crowds across the country. I saw like Stanford played at Gonzaga. The kennel was rocking, great atmosphere. South Carolina has sold out. We've seen UConn, of course, sell out. The momentum from last year, even within a bubble down in Texas in that great Final Four, what have you sensed in terms of that momentum carrying over to so far a month into the season?
Yeah, it is. It's the momentum. It's the hunger and excitement around women's basketball. I also think it's a bit of, we didn't have many fans in venues last year. And so even here at Duke, we're seeing our fans come out fast and furious to watch some women's basketball because it's a really exciting game. And so to have the fans in the venues, as well as the exposure on TV, ESPN has been a great partner for our tournament, broadcasting all the games during the tournament on linear TV. It's really creating that fan interest and excitement around women's basketball as we continue to grow the game.
Also, another sort of new thing you could argue, which is that things happen quicker now in legislation, and the fact that you guys didn't wait at all to go from 64 to 68. We're doing it right away in 22. What's the effect of that?
Yeah, I mean, that was a bit of low hanging fruit, right? It was a recommendation that came out of the gender equity report to create a 68 team tournament, just as the men do, create equal number of opportunities for participation for women's teams. And so that was an easy thing for us to say, come on, let's go. No need to wait. And it'll be implemented here for the 22 tournament in Minneapolis. Figuring out now kind of the logistics and how those first 4 games happen, where they happen. We are working on that, and this year might not look like future years, but this year those first 4 games will be held on top 16 campus sites, just as the first and second rounds are. But really, it's a no-brainer, right? To create the same number of opportunities for the women that the men have. There's the same number of Division I men's and women's basketball teams, so come postseason, same number of opportunities.
Minnesota Lynx and the WNBA have always had great fan support. The Final Four is in Minneapolis, which has been a great home for women's basketball. Obviously, University of Minnesota, we have Lindsay Whalen, the head coach, former WNBA star, and former great college player as well. What's going on with preparations for the Final Four in Minneapolis?
Yeah, we just held our committee fall meeting there about 3 weeks ago, right there in Minneapolis. We toured the facilities. We had our meeting at the University of Minnesota and had a local organizing committee host us for dinner. And so it was just great to start to talk with the folks that are on the ground there in Minneapolis and continue to build excitement for this tournament. You know, having no fan or very little fans, but teams in a bubble in San Antonio. We're back at it and back to normal for this coming tournament. Going to be so much fun. And obviously, I mean, the elephant in the room, if you will, kind of the issues that we had in San Antonio that really exposed the inequities between the men's and women's tournaments. We have no choice but to get it right this year. And so expect Minneapolis to be absolutely spectacular, an elite championship experience for our student athletes that participate and have made it there to the Final Four. But really, for all rounds of the tournament, it's going to be a fantastic tournament this year. Yeah,
I was a great host a couple of years ago when Virginia won the men's title. You know, 2 issues off of that. One are committees working together more, and that logo behind me. The men's and women's committee, how's that going in terms of sharing ideas and where each committee is at as you prep for the championships?
Yeah, that's been so much fun so far. Once a month, both men's and women's committees meet together. And now that we all know how to do virtual meetings so efficiently, we're jumping on the Zoom and collaborating together once a month. And it's been really great. And it is sharing ideas. And you know, we were able to talk through expansion on the women's side and talk with the men's committee. You know, how do you operate with 68 teams in that first 4? How do you do the seating and the bracketing? And so really have been able to get some great ideas from our men's colleagues and men's committee colleagues and vice versa. And so I think we're going to be really well prepared going into the postseason tournament, you know, knowing that we've shared ideas, collaborated, and creating equitable experiences for both men's and women's basketball teams.
How about this logo behind me?
Yes, the logo. So March Madness, another kind of piece of low-hanging fruit. Why aren't the women's basketball using March Madness? And so went through a process there and got approval to utilize the logo for both men's and women's. I mean, it's a gender neutral term, right? It's March Madness, and the women play basketball in March, and it's madness too. So here we go, and just so grateful that we're able to brand the women's tournament the same as the men, utilizing March Madness.
And next year, you got to sort of do 2 at the same time. But next year is going to be pretty monumental to have divisions 1, 2, and 3 all in Dallas. What's going on for prep for that in 23?
Yes, well, we just revealed the logo for 2023 Women's Final Four in Dallas, simultaneously with the men. They will be in Houston, so we'll be both in the state of Texas, and it's going to be so exciting. D1, 2, and 3, and also we're celebrating 50 years of Title IX. That anniversary comes this summer, so the following April, we'll really be celebrating women's impact on sporting world for 50 years with the anniversary of Title IX. So it's going to be so much fun and just a great atmosphere having all divisions there in Dallas for the women's basketball tournaments.
Well, Nina, just before we wrap up, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask your day job here. first to have Kara Lawson and the women's team back on the court after having to opt out earlier in the season last year. And then, this being Coach K's last season, off to a great start, becoming number one, at least for a little bit, that great game against Gonzaga, but just overall, just the emotions of what's happening in both basketball programs under your leadership.
Yeah, so much fun. It's so great. We're so fortunate to have Kara leading our women off to a hot start. It's been really exciting, and she's assembled quite a great team. And then just celebrating Coach K all year long and his impact on not just Duke men's basketball, but the basketball community all over the world. So it's been a lot of fun. But let me just tell you, he is focused on coaching the team. We're focused on celebrating him and preparing for the transition to Coach Shire. But it's exciting here at Duke. We're having a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate it, Nina. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see you.